What's up guys, my name is Matthew and today we are doing my August wrap up. I feel like it's been so long since I've talked in front of the camera. This has been a very hard month for me reading wise. I have been in the biggest reading slump. Probably this is the worst reading month I've had since I started my channel, and maybe my worst reading month since the start of COVID when I really started reading a lot. So this month I only read 5 books. That being said, I think I'm finally out of the reading slump. We have to thank Ashley Winstead, of course, for getting me out of the reading slump, but I will get to that later. But yeah, this has been a hard month for me. Personal issues, work's been kicking my butt, but I think I'm out of the reading slump, so I'm excited to come back. Some housekeeping. I know I said that I was going to release a video about my favorite twists and thrillers in September. That's not happening. I still got so much to read, and people keep recommending me more books, so the list keeps getting bigger and bigger. And I also said that I was gonna read A Little Life in September. That's also not happening. 1, because I have so many other books to read, and 2, because I really am not in a place where I want to read the most depressing book of all time. I'm not there. I'm sorry. Maybe we'll do it November, December. I'm not making any more promises. We'll get to it when we get to it, but I will let you know when I decide to start reading it so that we can buddy read it. But yeah, let's get started into the books I did get to read this month, even though I was in a huge reading slump. I'm just gonna go in order of how I read the books this month, and the first book that I read in August was The Secret History by Donna Tartt. So a lot of people recommended me this book when I was asking for recommendations about my favorite thriller twists, where a group of college friends, there's a murder, and there's dual timelines. This book kind of follows that trope in the sense that there are a group of college friends and there is a murder. However, there's no dual timelines. In this book, it's kind of like a reverse murder mystery where the book starts and you know who died and you know who committed the murder. So you're just kind of going back in the past to figure out what led up to the murder of this character. So some of my friends were like, Matthew, you're gonna hate this book because it's heavy on the classics, it's kind of pretentious, and it's just not gonna be something you like. Some people said that I'm gonna love it, it's a classic, it's their favorite book of all time, and I kind of see both perspectives. I ended up giving this 3 stars, and I will say the first 300 pages, I was loving it. I thought it was gonna be a 5-star book, but this book is thick. Like, she is thick, she's 550 pages. This is not a thriller, and I knew that going in. I knew I had the right expectations and I expected what I got, but this book is thick and all of the characters are very, very flawed. And you guys know I love reading about flawed characters. It's my favorite thing to read about in books. However, like towards like page 400, 500, I was like, I am done hanging out with these people. I am over it. Yeah, so it got long-winded and I was just over it. I was done with the book at page 300, which tends to be my normal page limit where I start to lose attention, with a few exceptions. Lizzie's going to the bathroom because I'm publicly speaking. That tracks. At least that hasn't changed in the month since I've been away from BookTube. But what is this book about? This book is about, like I said, a group of college friends. They end up killing this guy named Bunny, who's like this awful human being. He's like a fraud, he's like a bigot, homophobic, just an awful human being. And he ends up getting killed. And we flash forward, getting to learn about these group of friends and what led up to the murder of Bunny and how it affected the friend group, how the friend group moved forward, the investigation. And like I said, it's not a thriller, it's much more like a literary fiction. And I had no idea when this book was set. So I was reading it and about page 100. It hit me that I was kind of assuming that this book was written in maybe 2010, but I was like, this does not feel like 2010. This feels older. So I looked it up and this book is actually written in 1992. This book is older than me and it's set in like the mid 1980s. So it's definitely a classic. Yeah, it's not a classic, but you know what I mean. It's an older book, and it's very, very well written. I understand why people think this is a masterpiece, a beautiful book. I highly recommend it in the sense you go into it with the right mind. This is not a thriller. This is not some edge of your seat. It's much more a character-driven book with awful human beings and their relationship together. So I think you'll enjoy it if this is what you're looking for in a book. So the next book I read in August is Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, which is all the hype on BookTube and Bookstagram and Goodreads right now. I'm not gonna lie, I was very underwhelmed with this book. I went into it, I picked it up and I go, this is gonna be one of those books that makes me cry, emotionally affects me. I was gonna have it on the Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, the Heart's Invisible Furies, that category of a book. And it just didn't do that for me. I gave it 3 stars. I've already unhauled it. I feel like I'm not gonna do a good job explaining this book because it is very character driven. So it's hard for me to talk about the plot. But at its core, it's about a guy named Sam who's at Harvard and a girl named Sadie who is at MIT, I believe. And they know each other from childhood, but they run into each other in this subway station and they start up a friendship again, and they start working on video games. And the book is spanning multiple years, which I love. I love reading about characters set over decades, as most of you already are aware. So I really thought I was gonna just get invested with these characters, fall in love with the characters, but I found myself not really caring. It's a book about their friendship, how it kind of, blurs with the romance, other characters in the book, there's love triangle, and it's really just them. They're frenemies to lovers to not speaking to friends again. It's just whiplash back and forth about them working together to create video games. And that's really what the book is about. It's a lot deeper than that. I feel like that's a very superficial explanation of the book. It is very character driven, like I said. And I didn't connect with the characters like everyone else is, I think. I mean, this book has a 4.4 on Goodreads. I ended up giving it 3 stars because I do think it's well written. And I think there's something there. It just wasn't hitting me. That being said, as you know, I am in a huge reading slump in August. So it might have just been my mood. Maybe I just couldn't read it. And if I would have read this in a month from now, it would have been an all-time favorite. So take what I'm saying as a grain of salt. It was boring to me. And I do like character-driven books. I just have to care about the characters. If I don't care about the characters, it's very hard for me to stay invested. And that's kind of what this book felt for me. Everyone else is loving it. So go into it. You might love it. Just know that it's very character-driven. And it's about a group of friends making video games. And it's a lot deeper than that. It's really about their relationships. But yeah, it didn't work for me. Sorry, already unhauled it. And it, not gonna lie, really did not help the reading slump at all. What is my advice for getting out of a reading slump? My advice is to pick up an Ashley Winstead book. You guys know I talk about her in pretty much every one of my videos. And I finally got my hands on The Last Housewife. I could not get an advanced copy of this, even though it was my most anticipated read. It's okay, I finally got it. And I got a signed copy because I'm a nerd. So now I have a signed copy of The Last Housewife, and I have a signed copy of In My Dreams I Hold a Knife because I'm a nerd. And she's also coming to New Orleans to like a bookstore to, talk about her book and sign books. And I'm gonna try to get her romance book. It's slipping my mind what it's called, but I'm gonna get her romance. I'm bringing my romance book to get her signed so I can have the whole collection signed because I'm a loser and I don't care. I love my little collection of books, and now I have like signed copies of pretty much all of my favorite authors. I have a signed copy of Riley Sager, a signed copy of Karin Slaughter, Ashley Winstead. I just need a signed copy of Alice Feeney, but we'll get on that later. So how did this get me out of my reading slump, you may ask? This book was so good. I'm seeing kind of mixed reviews. Most people love it. Most people ate it up. Some people did not enjoy it because it's very heavy on abuse to women, but that's like not a good sentence to follow with but. So abuse to women, bad. However, the message in this book is so strong. There's so much on this that I don't feel comfortable speaking about on my channel just because there's just so much to unpack. But so much of this was like light bulbs flicking off in my head. So much of it read true. And you're probably like, Matthew, when I tell you about the book, you're like, what do you mean this read true? What's going on in your life? This book is like, it takes something that's happening in society and makes it like, there's a word for this. I sound so dumb. There's a word, like an over-exaggerated issue to make you focus on the real issue. There's a definite word for that. And like all you smart people can write in the comment what the word is. But what is this book about? This book is about a girl named Sheri who, when she was in college, her and her college friends met this older man who they all were fascinated with, had a huge crush on. And the man kind of seduced them and kind of brought them into this cult. And the book flash forwards in the future, and we get Shay, and she realizes one of her friends from college was killed at the campus. So she hears this true crime podcast talking about her friend being murdered, and she thinks, shit, did my friend get wrapped up in this cult again? So she's going back to the university, going undercover to get into this cult, figure out what's going on, what happened to her friend who was murdered, and I loved it. I loved all the vibes, I loved the college vibes, I loved the cult vibes. This book will make you so, so angry. Like, these men in these books are just awful. And the twists and turns. Ashley, thank you so much for getting me out of this reading slump. I was in a terrible place, and I read a book about a cult, and it got me out of a reading slump. So 5 out of 5 stars. This is the second thriller by Ashley Winstead. Both books 5 out of 5. She's my new favorite author. I love the way she writes. Like I said, super trigger warnings. She puts the trigger warnings on the first page because there's a lot of fucked up shit that happens in this book, and it's a lot. So if you're not in a good place where you want to read about that kind of stuff, I definitely warn against it because it is dark, but the message in this book is just so clear. I loved everything about this book. But I feel like I'm missing something. You know what this book kind of reminded me of? The Brightlands by John Frame. You know, I always talk about that book being my favorite gay thriller. This book wasn't gay at all, but it has that like, there's not that crazy twist like in the Brightlands if you've read it, but it's the same vibe. It's almost kind of the same message, but in a different way. I don't want to spoil anything. But yeah, this has like the same vibes as the Brightlands for me, especially with all the weird shit that happens. But yes, go into this with caution, but I fucking loved it. It was awesome. Thank you, Ashley. You saved me from my reading slump. So after the last Housewife, I was like, okay, I'm back. Let's get back into reading. So I picked up my second favorite thriller author, Karin Slaughter, and I read the new Karin Slaughter book, Girl Forgotten, and I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. This is the sequel to Karin Slaughter's Pieces of Her, and if you know, I did not really like this book. I think I gave it 2 stars. I found it very boring, and I found that the pacing and the structure of this book was so confusing and hard to follow, but I love this book. This was a good pick-me-up from a good follow-up from this book. If you've never read this book yet, and you are interested in this book when I explain it to you, I would almost suggest you skip this. However, I would go on Google and just look up a summary of all the characters and their relationships, because the characters and the relationships does play a part in this book. It's a completely different mystery, but some of the bad guys and some of the family members and stuff play a role in this book. Read the summary, maybe take notes. I actually read the summary before I started this book because I completely forgot I knew the big twists, but I didn't know the characters, so I'm glad I read a summary. I think this one's skippable. I did not enjoy it, but I do think you want to know what happened in this book so that you can better appreciate her new book, Girl Forgotten. So in the Pieces of Her, we follow a woman named Andrea who's on the run, and I'm not gonna go into this book, but in this book, she is now a US Marshal, and she goes to an assignment where she has to protect this judge who's getting death threats, but she's also looking into this mystery that happened way back in the 80s to this girl named Emily, who was in this close group of friends, and she ended up getting murdered. I don't know what they tell you. So they don't tell you what I was about to say, so that's good. So she's murdered. All you know is that Emily's murdered, and Andrea's trying to figure out what happened back in the 80s. How is it playing a role in the present? Does it sound familiar? A group of toxic friends in high school. Where are the friends now in the future? Somebody got murdered. Who's responsible? Favorite trope. And this is well done. It wasn't college friends, it was high school friends. And you're following that mystery, the mystery of her protecting the judge. How does the judge protecting this federal judge fit into what happened to Emily's murder years previous? What's going on in this town? I really liked it. I thought it was so well done. The twists at the end, I did not guess, but they weren't jaw-dropping. But I thought this book was just so compelling. I was not ever bored. I was very interested in what happened in the 1980s to Emily and what went on with these friends. There was a twist that I did not see coming that I really enjoyed with one of the friends. But yeah, so I liked it. Skip this one if you haven't read it. Read a summary and just jump into this one because this is strong. Most people are in agreement with me that this was just not her best work. And yeah, I would not recommend this one, but this one was pretty good. And we're strong, we're out of the reading slump. All right, I read one more. So the last book I read in August, and I just finished it, is Alice Feeney's Daisy Darker. This is all the hype right now. I love Alice Feeney. I read 2 of her books, and I think they were both 5 stars, or maybe one of them was 4 stars. This book, I ended up giving 3 stars, and I'm definitely in the minority because everything I see on Goodreads and YouTube, people love this book. Easy 5 star. Some of my most favorite booktubers, 5-starred, amazing. I thought it was kind of boring. Honestly, I thought the ending is fun and unique. It won't work for everyone, but the ending I enjoyed. I thought it was fun, unique, haven't seen that before in different books, so I really enjoyed it. This book is about this family called the Darkers, and they don't like each other, they're toxic, it's just this awful family dynamics, and they all go to this famous house that their Nana owns, and it's Nana's 80th birthday, and when they get there, people start dying one by one, very Agatha Christie vibes. I just was very bored. I just did not care. I thought the writing was very good. Alice Feeney's such a good writer. I did tab some things, so I'll read you my tabs. Some people like that. All right, this one says, there are much cleverer ways to end a person than killing them. Ain't that the truth? She has always found human company unsatisfying. She says she finds it exhausting to listen to the manufactured feelings of people too stupid to know when their thoughts are not their own. And then, books will teach you anything you want to know, and they tend to be more honest than people. Yeah, so I mean, this book was well written. I just, throughout the book, I didn't really care for the characters. They're pretty awful. And I thought the house could have been creepier because they're like in this abandoned house. And I thought the house could have been creepier in the book. And it wasn't. Like I said, I love the ending. But yeah, this is kind of forgettable for me. It's very, and then there were none Agatha Christie vibes. But yeah, it just didn't stand out for me. And I'm not like praising this like everyone else is. I did not have as fun of a time as everyone else. But yeah, I'm in the minority. Okay, so before I end, I want to tell you about a TV show book that I'm reading in the process of, because I'm obsessed. I am so invested in this. And it's called 5 Days at Memorial. It is an Apple TV show. And you guys, it is amazing. It is amazing. It's going to win all the awards. It is about Hurricane Katrina. And as you know, I'm from New Orleans, so it kind of hits close to home. And it's about this hospital called Memorial Baptist. It's called something else now. But a lot of people were at this hospital and Hurricane Katrina hit, and it was just like awful situation. No power, no way to help these dying people. And they were there for 5 days. And then it later surfaced that some of the doctors were accused of euthanizing some of the patients because they just weren't able to get them out. They were on hospice. And it's a very good story of what happened, what went down at that hospital those 5 days after Katrina, the legal process of these doctors being accused of murdering patients. And it's such a good look of like, you're either gonna be on the doctor's side or you're gonna be on the government side of like, can't believe these doctors killed these people, or they were doing their job. They were putting these people out of their misery. They were in high temperatures. They were gonna die anyway. They were about to be abandoned at this hospital with looters. It is so well done. I cry every episode. I know a lot of people who were actually at the hospital for Katrina. Obviously, I was in like 6th grade, so they were young, but they have memories of it. And some of my friends' moms were nurses at the hospital during this. So hearing their stories and just the awful stories of Hurricane Katrina. I was in 6th grade and we got out. My house did flood a little bit, but I don't have real memories of it. My parents kind of sheltered me from Hurricane Katrina. So now I'm kind of learning more about it and just how awful it was. And they have real clips of New Orleans during Hurricane Katrina, and it looks like a war zone. And it's like literally, I saw where my apartment is and just like the amount of people just like in the streets dying. It's crazy. And I don't know why I haven't really gotten into this. I think I was just naive. I didn't know how awful Hurricane Katrina was. I knew that all these houses flooded. My friends lost their houses, but I mean, it got rebuilt and I just have been ignorant to it. So I'm so obsessed. I'm watching the TV show and I'm also reading the book that the TV show is about. And it's just so fascinating. It's so fascinating because New Orleans is such a small town. So like I know or have mutual friends with so many people that are like at the key that were part of the legal, that were prosecuting the doctors. I know people who know the doctors who were at the hospital when all this stuff was going on, hearing their stories. It's so fascinating. I definitely check it out. It's very, very hard to watch. And you'll find yourself thinking, what side of this am I on? Did the doctors do the right thing? Did the doctors even euthanize the patients? So definitely check it out. 10 out of 10. The TV show is phenomenal. And I will report back next month once I'm done the book. This is just like a very famous journalist, Sheri Fink, wrote this. She did like a huge investigation. And I'm reading the book right now because I'm super fascinated. But yes, I digress. I'm finally out of my reading slump. Thank you, Ashley Winstead. I will try to release more videos. This has been the longest I've gone without making a video since my channel started. So I will try to report back more often. I have some ideas for videos coming in September, but we'll see. I'm not making any promises. But let me know if you guys have read any of these books, if you have any recommendations for me, and I will see you guys in another video soon. Stay.